Welcome to Thisday Live, the Sunday talk show, where we discuss all things political, bringing you the top stories locally, nationally, and from around the world. I'm Ruben Abati, and Thisday Live begins now. Coming up over the next 2 hours, Ghanaians head to the polls tomorrow to elect a new president for a 4-year tenure. What should we expect as old and new political foes prepare to face off? Plus, the Nigerian police force files a lawsuit seeking to stop judicial panels of inquiry set up by state governments to probe allegations of police brutality and rights abuses. This comes as the House of Representatives passes a resolution inviting President Muhammadu Buhari to brief it on the security situation in Nigeria. And the Nigerian Senate expresses concern over the absence of plans by the federal government to commence the order and purchase of COVID-19 vaccines. Ghanaians will be heading to the polls tomorrow to elect a new president for a 4-year tenure. In the keenly contested election, there are a dozen presidential candidates in the race, including 3 women, one of them being a former First Lady, Nana Akufo-Addo of the National Democratic Party. She will be facing off against incumbent President Nana Akufo-Addo of the new Patriotic Party, MPP, and his longtime rival and predecessor, John Mahama of the National Democratic Congress, NDC. Akufo-Addo and Mahama have both served as presidents for single terms. However, this will be the 3rd time they will be challenging each other. Mahama having won in 2012 and Akufo-Addo in 2016. Although the election tomorrow presents a deja vu, pundits have not ruled out the element of surprise. Results from previous elections have been very tight, and the same outcome is just as likely this time around. Well, joining us now to speak on the Ghanaian election is Dele Momodu, a veteran journalist who splits his time between Lagos and Accra and has very close ties to many of the major contestants in tomorrow's poll. He is also the publisher of Ovation magazine and a former Nigerian presidential candidate. Welcome to the show, Basharon Dele Momodu. Good to have you here.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ruben Abati, PhD.
Thank you very much.
Always a pleasure to be on your show.
Thank you very much. Well, I mean, you are as familiar with Ghana, the politics of Ghana, as you are with the politics of Nigeria. We have 12 candidates in that presidential election tomorrow. There will also be parliamentary elections. But what should we expect? What are your calculations? Who will you consider to be the front runner out of the 12 presidential candidates that we have?
Let's make no mistake about it. Ghana has 2 major political parties. Ghana is very similar to the American democratic system. They have the Democrats and they have the Republicans. The Republicans are represented in Ghana by the MPP, while the Democrats are represented by the NDC. As you've already mentioned, both President Nana Akufo-Addo and John Dramani Mahama, this will be their 3rd time of meeting. It's going to be a very interesting match tomorrow. A lot of people have predicted that he may go into 2nd round. I don't think so. I think both of them have generated enough passion from their supporters. So even though you have a dozen candidates, there are only 2 that people are looking at. The 3rd being the wife of former President Jerry John Rawlings, now of blessed memory, Nana Rawlings. Is also contesting, but I don't expect that she hasn't even had time to campaign. Again, maybe because of the departure of the great man, Jerry Rawlings. So let's limit ourselves to Akufo-Addo and Mahama. In the last 4 years that President Akufo-Addo has been in power, he's been able to attract attention because of his free education policy. Even in Nigeria, when we had Chief Obafemi Awolowo of free education, made him extremely popular. The same is happening in Ghana. if there is anything that the NPP can confidently say they have today, it is what they call the free SHS. Yes, education. So the free SHS is very, very popular. But I doubt if one product alone can retain him the presidency. I doubt. On the other hand, people have been able to compare what John Dramani Mahama was able to do in 4 years to what the incumbent president has been able to do in 4 years. And I will give you examples. In the area of infrastructure, Ghanaians believe that not since the time of the Osagefo, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, have we had a leader who was able to develop their infrastructure like Mohammad did. The new airport, Kotoka International Airport, it's one of the best we have in Africa. Within one term, he was able to erect that. New hospitals, he was able to add minimum 1,000 bed capacity hospitals in Ridge, in Legon, and in other parts of Ghana. He was able to build a few airports beyond what existed before he came to power. And the network of roads, over 3,000 kilometers of roads, fantastic roads. In the area of agriculture, he did a lot. In fishing, a lot of people believe that he did very well. The incumbent president, as I said, free education is their own trump card. But in terms of infrastructure, it's almost nil. Then when you look at the economy, the Akufo-Addo government has borrowed more money than practically all the other presidents put together, while they have not been able to justify what they did with it. Then their government has been over-bloated. They have about 125 ministers in his cabinet, and that is considered very.
Well, I see you are very critical of the Akufo-Addo.
No, I'm giving you facts.
His own supporters will also say that he has done a lot in terms of attracting investment, particularly from China, and that his government's management of the COVID-19 pandemic deserves also a pass mark. But I know President Muhammad is your friend. You campaigned for him in 2016, and I've seen you also campaigning for him this time around. Is it a question of bias on your part?
No, I am a reporter, and my loyalty is to journalism. Forget about friendship. There will be nothing to report about Mahama if he did nothing. So, and I've challenged my friends in NPP. Nana Akufo-Addo is not my enemy. I actually knew Akufo-Addo before I knew Mahama. And I've challenged my friends in NPP that if you have pictures of projects that you have done, if you've built a new airport, send it to me. If you've built new hospitals, send the pictures to me. There is no journalist who will ignore good stories. It will be a good story. The COVID that you are talking about, without the hospitals built by Mahama, they would have been in the same situation we were, where we had to build emergency isolation centers. Ghana didn't have to do that because Mahama had more than enough, capacity to accommodate all the people who had issues with COVID-19. So, and that's why some of us are applauding. Our fascination with Mahama stems from the fact that he made Africa proud. He showed that not all African leaders are incompetent, and that within one term, you can do so much. I'll give you the story of Dumso, what we call Dumso in Ghana, electricity, where we were having outages.
Well,
just like
was a major minus for him.
It was, like I'm telling you, it couldn't have been a minus for him because the infrastructure was already rickety. The population was growing, and the infrastructure could not cope with the growth. And when Dumso came, everybody blamed him. And he came out and he gave them the deadline. He said, in 2 years, I will fix it. Exactly 18 months, he was able to inject 824 megawatts into their national grid. He was able to fix their transmission, which is what we always have as excuse in Nigeria, that, even if you generate enough electricity, you cannot transmit it. he was able to fix everything. And it got to a stage where he was going to be selling electricity to Nigeria, to Burkina Faso, to Togo, and to other neighboring countries.
Well, I hope all of that will work in his favor when Ghanaians go to the polls tomorrow. 17 million registered voters. But let's talk about the Rawlings factor. I mean, you said Nana Akufo-Addo Rawlings of the National Democratic Party, that she doesn't quite stand a chance. But how much of a factor is the Rawlings factor in this election? Because you recall President Rawlings died just a few weeks to the election. Campaigns had to be suspended in his honor for a week, and now tomorrow Ghanaians go to the polls. Would the Rawlings factor be a major factor or a substantial factor in that election?
Rawlings will always be a factor in Ghanaian politics. But to start with, it's not going to be a factor in favor of the wife. Because even when he was alive, the wife contested the election and she couldn't make it at that time. His daughter, Zanato, is a member of parliament, and she's running on the ticket of the NDC, which is where Mahama is. So if Rawlings is going to be a factor, I believe that it will favor the party he funded. Because what they are saying now is, let's do it for Rawlings, let's do it for Papa J, you know. So they are energized. He's from the Volta region, which is the largest catchment area for the NDC. And they are saying, let's do it for Papa J, let's do it for Papa J. And I believe that a lot of people will come out tomorrow. And don't forget one factor in Ghanaian politics. It's always 50-50. It's always a tight race. Because from the moment you are born, it's like religion. You're either a Christian or a Muslim, you're an NDC or MPP. It's not like Nigeria where people crisscross and you can, you know, jump from one party to another. So it's going to be tight, but I believe that the party that can bring out majority of their supporters will carry the day.
Well, I mean, two old rivals are meeting again for the third time. But what are the big issues in this election, beyond the personalities? You know, in Nigeria, we tend to worry more about personalities, ethnicity. What are those issues in Ghana? Is ethnicity a factor?
Ethnicity is a major factor. It's a major factor. Nana Akufo-Addo is from the eastern region. It comes from the Achim tribe. But their biggest catchment area is the Ashanti region. Now, there are complaints that the Achim mafia has taken over Ghana. So I don't know if that may bring about some apathy in the Ashanti region. I don't know. But I know there are complaints already that the Ashantis have not benefited much from a government they helped to bring to power. Mahama is from Bole. Bole is like our own northern region here in Ghana. So they are considered to be minorities. But of course, there are so many regions also in that areas, and they have substantial capacity to deliver votes. And then don't also forget that male to female ratio of the electorate is almost 50-50. In fact, I think it tilts more in favor of female. And for the first time, NDC, a major political party in Ghana, has fielded a female vice presidential candidate, Professor Jane Nana Akufo-Addo. So I don't know if that may also help the NDC, because you have a woman, a professor of literature, the first female vice chancellor at Cape Coast University, and so on and so forth.
Well, but beyond having a female vice presidential candidate, what are President Mahama's chances? What gives him the confidence that he could win this time around, whereas he failed in 2016?
Yes, he believes, just like the Yoruba proverb, that if a woman has not tried two husbands, you may not know who is better. So he believes that they've tried him, and now they've tried Nana, and that anyone who is objective enough will know that for what he achieved with a cheaper budget and what Nana has achieved with a much larger budget, he believes that he will carry the day.
Well, I mean, earlier on I asked you about the 12 candidates, but are there dark forces? Is there a third force? Is it possible that any of the other candidates, including, I think there are one or two independents, is it possible somebody can spring a surprise?
Not a chance in hell, no. It's
really?
Not possible, no.
So why are they in the race if it is given that they cannot win?
You know, people, we all expect miracles. I was once a presidential candidate in 2011. There was no way I would have won that election, but we still believe that a miracle could have happened. That the young people, for example, who always crave for younger candidates, that maybe they will see reason, and the emergence of Barack Obama at that time energized me, encouraged me to come out. But I learned a big lesson from that it's a waste of time. When my friend Donald Duke, I'm one of his biggest, admirers, when he contested, he came to me, I told him, don't waste your time on any thought force. It's not good. If it doesn't happen in America, so how can it happen? Because you need money, you need structures, you need so many things for you to be able to pull through. And if you don't have that, you can't make it.
Well, there was a tweet I took from Charles Oyango Obo. He's a columnist with the East Uganda. He's from Uganda. And he was saying more or less in that tweet that, Ghanaians are bloody show-offs, to put it in quotes, that they are holding an election tomorrow. We have not heard of violence. We have not heard of politicians sending thugs onto the streets. And that what kind of election do they think they want to hold if there is no violence attached to it? I know it was just being sarcastic, but is it the truth that elections in Ghana tend to be peaceful and orderly?
Ghana is one of the most peaceful countries in Africa. It's one of the reasons we're all praying that tomorrow nothing is going to change that. Of course, there will be a few skirmishes here and there. That's natural in any election, even in the United States of America. But Ghana, definitely, I know Ghanaians, the religious leaders, the leaders of thought, they've called both candidates and they attended a peace meeting just like the one we had in Nigeria, and I'm sure they can enforce it.
Yeah, but one of the factors we see in Nigeria is that the military tends to play a role in Nigerian elections, particularly general elections of this nature. Do we have a similar situation in Ghana? And if so, are there concerns being expressed about the role of the military in what is supposed to be civilian democracy? Yeah,
the opposition leader, John Mahama, has complained openly about the military presence in its stronghold in the Volta region, and that there is no reason why the president should draft the military, that it might disenfranchise people. People might get scared and not go out to vote. Well, I don't know the reasons. The government must have their own national security information for them to take that decision. But I know Ghanaians are very, very, very steadfast when it comes to issues of democracy. I believe that the military cannot intimidate them easily the way they do in Nigeria. The police cannot intimidate them easily. In fact, if you go to most airports now, you will see members of opposition there. I posted a video this afternoon where every plane that lands, they are monitoring. They are looking at what are they evacuating from the planes, and they are following them. Even the printing press, where some of the ballot papers were printed, they made sure they kept vigil at the place. They discovered there were 1 million extra, the voting cards and all that. And they made sure that they were burnt. They were destroyed. That will not happen in Nigeria. I mean, I always salute Ghanaians for that they are very, very serious about maintaining their democratic culture.
Well, what's the level of international involvement in this particular election? Because, there will be international observers. What have you observed? What have you seen in that regard? And particularly with regard to the interest from Nigeria. Because you recall that in the past, there are Nigerian stakeholders, Nigerian investors in Ghana, the Nigerian state also, always showing interest in what goes on in Ghana. If I spell it out, the two major candidates even have Nigerian connections.
They have links to Nigeria.
There have been stories of Nigerian businessmen providing logistics to support one candidate or the other. Yeah. What's our level of involvement this time?
It's always heavy. I've been involved in Ghana since the time of Rawlings, and more so in the time of President John Akufo-Addo. And I know for a fact that Nigerians always contribute their own logistics to whatever is going on in Ghana, especially the election. A lot of Ghanaian candidates often come to Nigeria to speak to our businessmen, to speak to our politicians, and they get enough support from Nigeria. I think that will probably be the case here. Don't forget that Nana Akufo-Addo's first wife, Fani Kayode, was a Nigerian. and his daughters are, so they are half Nigerians. John Mahama himself once grew up in Kano. His father was in exile in Nigeria, and he has a half-sister from Ofa in Kwara State. So the links are there. You have many Nigerian businesses in Ghana. Some of them have been there almost forever. For example, Chief Oluluda King is probably the richest Nigerian in Ghana. A lot of people don't know him. He's originally from Ogbomoso, but he's virtually a Ghanaian, and he's heavily into security printing, into real estate business and all that. And then you have our banks, of course. You have the UBA, which was the first bank that from Nigeria to come into Ghana. At the time, it was Standard Trust Bank. Then you have Access Bank, Intercontinental, of course, metamorphosed into Access. Then you have First Bank of Nigeria. You have Zenith Bank. You have First Atlantic Bank. So all these banks are controlled. You have the Guarantee Trust Bank. So in fact, going on the streets of Ghana, you might think you are in Lagos or any part of Nigeria. So naturally, they are stakeholders in the economy. And they've employed so many Ghanaians, they are paying salaries. If I always say it, that if Nigerians should pull out of Ghana, the economy would definitely be affected.
But these Nigerian stakeholders, in what direction are they leaning? Considering the fact that we have issues of border closure, we have also issues with regard to Nigerian traders in Ghana. These have been two major issues in the lead up to the election in terms of our relationship with Ghana and the politics of Ghana-Nigeria bilateral relations.
What I know is that the private business people would naturally avoid playing politics openly. So even if they are offering any support, it will have to be done clandestinely. So it's very clandestine. And then the biggest of them, of course, Dr. Mike Adenuga Jr. with Glow in Ghana, and Dangote, the Dangote Group, the Sahara Energy Group, and so on and so forth. They are there. And they are friends to both the major candidates. So I don't know what level of support they will give them, but it's not impossible. But I know that the government of Nigeria was very disturbed that Nigerian shop owners were being harassed. I don't know if that will affect their relationship with the incumbent president. I know that even President Nana Akufo-Addo had to come to see President Buhari in Abuja. Unfortunately, they still couldn't resolve it. The shops are still under lock and key. So Nigerians are hoping that whosoever wins tomorrow would show more love towards Nigerians, because a lot of times it's like Nigerians don't want to see Nigerians, and this can be very disturbing because we continue to be law-abiding, we continue to give our support, we generate a lot of income for the Republic of Ghana.
But how high are the stakes? Is this a do-or-die election, or that phrase do-or-die election does not apply in Ghana?
I won't call it a do-or-die, but I will say it's a very, very serious election. It will probably be one of the hottest ever, because, as you know, both of them, this will be their third time, and they are both fully entrenched in the system. Nana Akufo-Addo is an old war horse. I think he's about 76 years old now, while Muhammad turned 62 just last week. So we'll wait and see what happens tomorrow.
Well, if you look at Ghanaian democracy, it's been fairly stable. This is their 8th consecutive election in the Fourth Republic, right? They are running the Fourth Republic. Are there lessons we can learn from Ghana's electoral system? Because they started this campaign almost about 2 years ago. They tend to start early. The race starts rather early. And then there are independent candidates. Are there certain things we can learn from their own system?
For me, the biggest lesson to learn is that the two leading parties always produce world-class candidates. If Mahama wins, you can be sure he will hit the ground running. If Nana Akufo-Addo comes back, you can be sure he's very well educated. It's almost impossible for an illiterate to become a leader in Ghana today. It's almost impossible. You must be an accomplished either politician, professional, or business person, but you would not have a dreg of society even dream of thinking of leading Ghana today or tomorrow. That is a lesson I think Nigeria must learn. Two is that their primaries start very early. 2 years to election, they already know who the candidate will be. So it gives them enough time to formulate their policies, to draft their manifestos, and to interact with their people. I remember that when Mahama was going to vote, I followed him to his village in Bole, and I was shocked that it was like a general election. It's not like in Nigeria where you go to the Eagle Square and then you have people bringing dollars to give to delegates. No, it's not like that. People actually vote for their parties. Once you're a registered member of a party, you're a stakeholder, you can vote in the primary. So I think that reduces the level of corruption, and it also makes the candidates very popular.
Well, let's talk about the role of the media. I mean, when I read Ghanaian newspapers, the Graphic and the others, they don't strike me as being as robust as our own pugilistic local media here. But what's your assessment of the role of the media so far in the lead up to the elections tomorrow? Is it, is the tone different?
No, the tone is different. Ghanaians specialize more in radio.
Okay.
And television. The newspapers, no. I tried to do a weekend newspaper to tell you that Ghanaians are not so much interested in newspapers. I set up the African Star, and you won't believe it. I called the vendors and they will tell me, oh, we don't work on Saturday and Sunday. I couldn't believe it because weekend papers are supposed to be among the hottest anywhere in the world. But in Ghana, no, they are not. They don't do that. But Ghanaian politicians are big talkers. If you listen to the level and the tenor of discourse on radio in Ghana, you would think there is war, and they are ready to say anything, and they are ready to take on their leaders. Unlike here, where you are afraid that, although under this government, unfortunately, we've had issues with the government closing down a few opposition radio stations, which was not the case. That wasn't common in the past. And then there have been allegations of harassment of journalists, but that's neither here nor there. But definitely, radio is playing a major. In fact, there has been a proliferation of radio stations in Ghana, and anybody who wants to invest in anything in Ghana will invest, and it's largely dominated by the ruling government, the MPP. They own a lot of the stations.
But you don't get an impression of widespread repression or free opinion.
Oh no, people talk as freely as possible. But under this government, the media has not been very kind to opposition. But because when Mahama was in power, they were always harassing him, pummeling him, and everything. And suddenly, Nana comes to government, and all the things they accuse Mahama of doing, they are not able to report it. That is the only form of repression I see. That, I will call it suppression of information. Even the time you said that we campaigned for Mahama, it was part of that intimidation from the MPP because they controlled the media. So all the projects that Mahama did, they said he didn't do it. In fact, when we released some of the pictures, they told us they were photoshopped because they looked too beautiful to be in Africa. But now people have seen that, hey, I went to the first day I used the new airport. Even the immigration officials were saying only a devil would not acknowledge that Mahama did well for Ghana. His class of leadership is uncommon.
Well, I see if you were to vote in the election in Ghana,
oh, no doubt.
It's very obvious where your vote will go.
No doubt.
Yeah, but the presidential election, you said, look, it's a two-horse race.
Yeah, very, very
Is that the same at the parliamentary level? Because there will still be parliamentary elections. Do we have wider representation at that level?
I have followed all the opinion polls in Ghana, and more than 80% of them have given it to Mahama to be the president, and they said he would have a majority, that NDC will have a majority this time. They're going to reclaim some of their lost members in parliament from the last election. So we'll wait and see what happens.
But what if he loses? What's next for him? That's your candidate.
I believe if he loses, he will go into retirement. I don't see him coming back to say he wants to run again. Though age is on his side, but I doubt. I don't think, because even the people in his party, of course, there will be other people also waiting in the wings. And but I don't see him losing tomorrow. I believe, I'm very positive that he will win tomorrow.
Well, but you know, in every election, in every country, apart from the front runners, the candidates, there are also certain major constituencies that could swing the election one way or the other. Who are those leading influencers in Ghana, and what are those critical constituencies that could determine the outcome of this election?
Ghana does not have a formidable mafia like we do in Nigeria.
Not even the retired military rulers or retired politicians?
They don't have that. Otherwise, then Rawlings would have been able to influence a lot of things, and maybe his wife would have been the candidate of the NDC, since he was the founder of NDC. You don't have that kind of undue interference. Yes, of course, they respect the religious leaders. You know, you have the Dr. Otabils, you have the chief imams, you have all those people, but they don't have such control as our own mafia dons do in Nigeria. No, they don't have that. And if you look at it, it will always be half-half. They are all friends. They try to be as friendly as possible, despite their differences. And I pray that Ghanaians will continue to do that for the sake of Africa, because there is too much turmoil, too much crisis in Africa, and we cannot afford to add Ghana to that. And that's why we pray that whosoever wins will go, you know, and embrace who the loser is, and then the loser too should concede. And that's where I am confident, because both of them, of course, have lost at different times. Nana lost, though he went to court, and then Mahama too lost, but he didn't go to court. He accepted defeat, and he actually called to congratulate the president. And that is a good tradition that we must all embrace.
Well, this is a general election in the season of COVID-19, which has been a source of major concern across the world. I know the Electoral Commission has been talking about observing COVID-19 protocols, but during the campaigns across the country, all the candidates, particularly the two principal candidates, their followers and they themselves, I didn't quite see them observing COVID-19 protocols. Are you aware of any mechanism that is in place to ensure that there is physical distancing during the elections tomorrow in Ghana, across Ghana?
Oh, Ghanaians are very disciplined people, very, very disciplined.
More disciplined than Nigerians?
I won't say that.
Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not comparing. I'm saying they are very disciplined people. And I know, I mean, I've been in Ghana. I just left Ghana a few days ago to attend a funeral in Nigeria. And I should be back there shortly. From what I've seen in Ghana, here, okay, if you want me to compare, here in Nigeria, I have to beg people, sometimes my driver, hey, why you know when you're in Ghana, it's standard practice, a lot of people. But when you, of course, if you go to a rally, you know it's a mob action. So you are not able to control. Even in America, there was no way Trump could have controlled his crowd. But I know that in terms of voting tomorrow, a lot of Ghanaians will observe whatever it takes for them to be safe.
Well, let me go back to your favorite candidate, President Mahama. I mean, he's been president, so he has a chance. He can do another 4 years. When he lost in 2016, he didn't contest the election. He just moved on, and now he's back. Now we have something similar in Nigeria. President Jonathan in 2015, he also said, well, you know, he has conceded defeat. His ambition was not worth the blood of any Nigerian. And now, just as we're having Mahama returning in Ghana, there are persons following that example also who are saying that President Jonathan should run again in 2023, since he has a chance to do a second term, an additional 4 years. Well, yesterday, I think, 2 days ago, he issued a statement saying that we should not be thinking of 2023 now. 2023 is too far away, and that's not what he's thinking about. But do you think that that would be a good idea if we have former President Jonathan also running in 2023, just like President Mahama? And perhaps if President Mahama wins, maybe that will encourage those who are saying we want President Jonathan back in Aso Villa?
Well, let me say that I wasn't close to President Jonathan when he was in office, but I did go to his office after he lost, and we had a very good meeting in the office. And I actually believed at that time, because I knew Mahama was going to come out in Ghana, I asked him if he too would be interested in Nigeria, and he said no. But I always suspected that the temptation would be there for him, especially if President Buhari is not living up to expectation. People will begin to compare the two. And that's what has happened. A lot of people are comparing Jonathan. Hey, in fact, they attack people like us for supporting Buhari. I may personally have apologized publicly because Buhari did let us down. I'm sorry to say. So, but I believe that President Jonathan would have stood a better chance last year. That's my opinion. Last year, because then it would have been very fresh comparing Jonathan to Buhari. Now, there are many people already waiting for 2023, and this is likely to complicate. I believe if Jonathan ran last year, he would probably have gotten the ticket instead of an article, because as an immediate past president, he would have a lot to point to, that, hey, this is what I did when I was in office, this is what I did. It's the same thing playing for Mahama in Ghana right now, because he's able to point to things he did in power. So I'm not sure if 2023 will not be too late for him, but who knows? As I said, the mafia in Nigeria, if they decide that it's the turn of Jonathan, they have enough power and capacity to install him.
Well, let's close with Ghana. Are you optimistic that the elections in Ghana will be peaceful, free, and fair? I
believe so, and I pray so. I believe it will be peaceful, free, and fair. More so if a clear winner emerges, which I believe will be the case tomorrow.
First past the post.
Yeah, so if it goes into second round, it becomes more chaotic. But if it's a straight fight tomorrow and a clear winner emerges, which I believe will happen, if Mahama is going to win tomorrow, he's going to win clearly. And if it's the president, who knows?
Well, thank you very much, Bashorun Dele Momodu, for joining us on Thisday Live, the Sunday Talk Show, and for your insights about the elections in Ghana tomorrow. We'll keep a watching brief on the presidential and general elections in Ghana, and we'll continue to bring you updates on Arise News. It's time now for a break here on Thisday Live, the Sunday Talk Show. When we return, the program will continue. Don't go away. Stay with us. Welcome back to Thisday Live, the Sunday Talk Show here on the Arise News channel. I have with me now in the studio Professor Bola Akintenwa, Director General, Bolitag Center for International Diplomacy and Strategic Studies, and former Director General of the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs. Yemi Adamolekun, Executive Director, Enough is Enough, and Chike Ogea, former Commissioner for Information, Delta State. Well, Yemi, Prof, and Chike. Prof, let me start with you. I mean, our guest, Bashorun Dele Momodu, had helped to take a look at many of the major issues in tomorrow's general elections in Ghana. Presidential election, and then 275 parliamentary seats are also at play in that particular election. It's the 8th consecutive election organized since the return to democracy in Ghana. He was pointing out, and many analysts also agree, that only two parties are dominant. The race is a two-horse race between the NDC and the MPP. That is between Akufo-Addo and President Mahama. But he says it could go either way because elections in Ghana are usually hotly contested. And as you know, no party, neither of these two major parties, has spent complete 8 years since the return to election. Incumbents have lost election in Ghana at least 3 times since the return to democracy. But what's your own take as a professor of international relations?
I think we should just begin the discussion with the proverbial saying Bashorun Dele Momodu drew our attention to when you did ask him the question as to what the direction can be. He told us that according to this Yoruba proverb, not until a woman has tried 2 husbands, he wouldn't know the difference. And I've always asked myself about this, because it is not possible for a woman to try a husband under the same conditions. It is not possible. The period of courtship, all right, on the one hand, for the first man, cannot be the same with the new husband. In terms of experience, when we bring that proverb to the level of political analysis, it is true that in 2012, Mahama, won, and then in 2016, he lost to Nana, and now Nana has been there, and as you rightly pointed out that no incumbent, they have been losing on and on. I want to argue that in this particular case, the environmental politics, the environmental dynamics will normally determine who will eventually win. He did draw our attention to the fact that the candidates are knowledgeable, and saying that, look, the stakeholders, you did ask him whether the factor of Nigerians and other stakeholders will play. He told us about the origins of some of them, that, look, this can play. I quite agree with a number of the points he raised, but analytically, I want to believe that, contrary to the argument that if A is equal to B and B is equal to C, therefore will be equal to C, if Mahama won in 2012, lost in 2016, in 2020, there is the likelihood for him to win. Why? This election is fundamentally a choice between the economy, all right, and which the incumbent, Akufo, is trying to emphasize, that is strengthening the economy, etc.
Yeah, whereas inflation is high.
Mahama is campaigning on the basis of infrastructure, to which Dele Muhammadu also drew a lot of attention. It is on record that a modern airport, construction of macadamized roads, all in Ghana, running to thousands, and hospitals. The people are very happy with the provision of this type of quality infrastructure in Ghana. So, Mahama is campaigning on that platform to say, give me the opportunity again to continue. But you see, as Basharun Muhammadu rightly pointed out, a lot of money pumped into all these economic something that Nana, Akufo is talking about, but where is the evidence? All right. Insinuating that at the end of the day, if you are well funded, you are giving money for certain projects, and they cannot see the projects, that is the Nigerian style of corruption. So I want to posit that the likelihood of the winner appears to be more, not on the incumbent, but on the side of Mahama.
Well, Chike, let me come to you. What's your take as Ghana goes to the polls tomorrow? 12 presidential candidates, 17 million voters, 275 parliamentary seats, and the presidency is also being contested.
This is from what Basharun told us. Ghana is basically a two-party state, and he then told us that voting in Ghana has always been very, very close and tight. A lot of factors come into play, as he said, being that both parties usually bring out very strong candidates that are very well educated. So at the end of the day, there's very little difference of them in terms of capacity and all of that. He also alluded to the fact that in Ghana, you know, your being in a party is like a lifestyle thing. You are born into it. It's not the kind of thing we do in Nigeria where you wake up in one party and you go to bed in another party, depending on, as we say, where your belly face kind of politics that we do here. So there they are like, maybe the Americans, you are a Republican or you're a Democrat, because that basically are the two ideologies that are running through them. So basically, voter mobilization will be key in this election, if you asked me. And of course, to that extent, the incumbent, I can imagine, should have a slight edge there because he can use the structures of government to be able to, you know, facilitate that. But more importantly, you begin to ask yourself, in the situation they are in Ghana now, what exactly are the issues? What are the issues driving these elections? What do they want? They are talking about infrastructure. Yes, we've alluded to the fact that Mohammad was the one who did a lot of work. And lately, you know, in the aviation sector where I work a lot, Ghana has become a major hub. In fact, almost overtaking Lagos, very, very unfortunately. There are major conferences, aviation conferences that hold in Ghana, because aside from even the infrastructure Mahatma put when he was in office, he opened up the economy. You get first-class hotels. Yes.
On that point about opening up the economy during the Mahama first time in office, let's take a quick break. When we return, I'll come back to you. We'll take a short break now, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Thisday Live, the Sunday talk show, here on the Arise News Channel. I still have with me Professor Bola Akinterewa, former Director General of the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, and currently Director General, Bulitac Center for International Diplomacy and Strategic Studies. Yemi Adamolekun, Executive Director in Office Enough, and Chike Ogea, former Commissioner for Information, Delta State, Nigeria. Chike, yes, let me come back to you. Before we went on break, you were talking about Mahama's record in terms of what he did with the economy during his first term in office.
Yes, I was basically looking at the issues, you know, that influenced the election. And I said, yes, that what did Muhammad do in his time when he left? They are all there for people to see. And I alluded to the fact that even in the aviation industry, Accra has more or less taken over the place of Lagos, where Lagos should be the hub, at least for West African aviation. Like I said to you, just because of COVID this year, we couldn't go, but every year, at least I go there once or twice for one or two major international conferences. And you get first-class hospitality, first-class hotels, Kempinski, Marriott. You know, the place was totally opened up by that man. And like Dele was saying, the fact that the population of Ghana is more like 50-50 men and women, and you know, you see a lot of people coming out and just trying to express themselves in different ways and different manners. And yes, the Ghanaians are also very peaceful people, so I don't expect that to be much violence in their elections at all. And that is why I can assure you, I'm surprised that they still even go to court at the end of every election in Ghana, because it's not like the situation where we have here, where there's a higher propensity for rigging and all of that. You know, in Ghana, what you get is what you see. If an election is called, to a large percentage, you know, there's a possibility that, you know, that election was well conducted and the expected results or outcomes are what has come out. So I see it as something we have to watch and see how it pans out, because both of them are coming with different things on the table. Like you rightly said, Muhammad, I think he's coming with a vice presidential candidate who is also female, so that I think will give the party more votes. But of course, there's the factor of incumbency, which can never ever be discounted anywhere at any time. But like we saw in America, if the people have adjudged that your work has fallen short of their expectations, well, incumbency cannot help you. So those are the kind of issues we're looking at. But like I said, all in all, we expect it to be keenly contested, because like we've said, Ghanaian elections have always been keenly contested. But the most important thing is that whatever the outcome is there, you be sure that that is what the people wanted?
Well, Yemi Adamolekun, thank you for your patience. I'd like to have your take on the Ghana elections tomorrow. 275 seats, electoral constituencies up for grabs. Women, just about 12% out of that. And then there's also been a lot of talk about the role of civil society groups in this election in Ghana. There's a coalition of about 34 civil society groups who will be monitoring the over 10,000 polling booths, polling stations, they call it.
Yes, thank you. I actually observed the last two elections, so quite sad that I'm not able to observe this election as well. Well, a couple of things that I think I find quite interesting, and I think I was trying to remember the other country where you've also had a flip in. I'm also quite sure if it's in flipping parties. No, not flipping parties, flipping candidates as well. But I couldn't remember the country. But I think it's quite fascinating. I think for me, it would really be a good test of how people respond to performance. A lot has been said about Mahama's performance and what he did. I mean, aviation, I would say definitely agree with Chiki on that one. It's a big thing. From the airport to even taking the role that Nigeria should play as a hub. They don't have a national airline per se, but AWA, it's the same way ARIC, people sort of say ARIC is Nigeria's national airline. AWA is sort of seen to be Ghana's own. But beyond that, just the ability for you to land in an airport that's that modern, if I want to see, and the service that you get and how people interact, not like we have in Nigeria. As you're landing, you're literally being begged from the foot of the plane all the way till you get out of the airport. What I think is also quite interesting is a comment about lawsuits. It was widely believed, actually, that Nana won the 2012 election, that Mahama was declared victory, and that the Supreme Court sort of made a decision in the best interest of the nation to say that if after declaring, in a sense, Mahama, if Nana was then declared, it wouldn't be good. So for me, I'm looking forward to how this then plays out in this election. So Mahama was declared winner. Maybe he didn't win, maybe not. 2016, Nana won. And then now 2020, they are back at it, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And lastly, when Mr. Mohammad was talking about some of the things that Nana has been accused of, one thing that he failed to mention is nepotism. In addition to his cabinet being bloated, he is accused of having several family members or friends as members of government, which, as someone said, it took nepotism in Ghana to levels yet unseen. So it'll be interesting to see how the electorate also respond to what has become normal in Nigeria, but very new for Ghana. And it'll be interesting to see how the response is.
Well, would you like to comment on the Electoral Commission, which, had been a subject of controversy after the last general elections, leading in part later to the removal of Charlotte Osei, who was in the last election the chief electoral commissioner. Do we have any such anxieties this time around about the integrity of the Electoral Commission?
I honestly haven't followed, but I quite disagreed with the removal of Charlotte. I followed, as I said, I observed the last election and I followed Charlotte's work. I didn't see a reason why she was removed beyond perceived. I mean, if anything, she went over and beyond to prove that the fact that she was, I think either part of the party or affiliated with the party, I forget what the controversy was, despite that, she went over and beyond to prove her neutrality to the degree. And one of the things I remember distinctly was when some results were transmitted electronically, there was an issue with it. She waited till the paper result came from wherever it was far, it was late, and ensured that it was the paper, the manual result that was used rather than sort of one that could have been tampered with. So I didn't quite agree with her removal, and unfortunately I haven't followed the current commission's work.
Well, Prof, do you have any additional points to make about the legislation in Ghana? Because, there was a new legislation since 2016, and then court rulings to reduce incidents of fraud. And the expectation is that this new framework that they have in place in Ghana is going to make a lot of difference.
Yes, of course. When there's a legislation specifically aimed at preventing electoral fraud, I think what is required of all the stakeholders is to ensure that the legislation is brought to impact on everyone. I strongly believe that it has the potential to fundamentally reduce the likelihood of all these rigging, ballot snatching. It will ensure fairness. It will strengthen democracy in Ghana. And the mere fact that they thought of coming up with a legislation that will deal specifically with this aspect of fraud, I think it is quite commendable. When you did ask Bashir Muhammadu the other time about lessons we can draw from the Ghanaian experience, I think it is particular one. This is a legislation we can draw from. The only thing now is that empirically we are yet to see how it is going to be executed. One thing is to have a legislation. The other aspect is the execution of it. In Nigeria, we are not short of all these legislations. There are many of them existing in different formats. The only thing is the mania, of translating into action all these legislations.
Well, Yemi, let me come back to you. This is just, I don't know whether you want to comment on it. Since 2015, Ghana has been appointing women as chairpersons of the Electoral Commission. After Charlotte Thisday left in 2018, the present chairperson is also a lady, John Mensa. Do you think that there could be a special reason for that, and maybe Nigeria could also learn from that?
Before we go to that, actually, I just wanted to sort of follow up on a thought that I had about what Mr. Muhammadu said about Ghanaian politicians being very vocal and very sort of expressive. Like, they talk a lot and they talk a big game, if I want to use that word. And I think, and the role that radio plays. And I think that that's also something that we don't have. And it ties a bit to also sort of this issue of the role that violence plays in our elections versus the Ghanaian elections. So basically, I'm trying to say that the history of violence and the connection between violence and Nigerians' elections, well documented, well seen. Not a player at all in Ghanaian elections. So you have politicians who, in a sense, are communicating, are talking to their constituents, are engaging. Radio is big. Talk radio in terms of politics, very big. Debate culture. Unfortunately, I didn't watch a debate for this election, but that's always a big part of Ghanaian elections as well. Both candidates show up. It's organized by the civil society organizations. All major media houses are part of that. So it's part of that culture, which also influences presenting policies, presenting achievements, presenting plans, which we don't have. Even though it's something we believe in as an organization, the way the National Assembly wanted to go about it was literally to set up a commission to do debates, which will then be full of government officials, which will make no sense. But I really think as we continue in this our journey on democracy, and we're talking about performance and engagement with citizens, debates should definitely be something that we push both at the federal and state levels, so that those who are running for office must engage with citizens outside the noise and madness of a rally. Have a conversation where your ideas and your policies can be challenged, and you can defend what you plan to do for people and your track record if you're coming back into office. And there's a point about a female INEC chairman. Why not? I mean, I'm not quite sure if it might be very deliberate in their choice, but I think in Nigeria's space, appointments for women are falling beyond the 35% that several administrations have promised. And I think in our elections, having a woman umpire would actually add a lot into the space in terms of the way women lead and in terms of the way women lead and engage for elections, for political parties, for politicians. I think actually it would be a welcome proposition. The current chairman has just been confirmed for another 4-year term, so it's definitely something to look at. Because I don't believe we've had a female election umpire, so it would be a first, and definitely something to look forward to in 2024.
Well, thank you. Thank you there. But we'll take a short break now, again on Thisday Live, the Sunday talk show. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Thisday Live, the Sunday talk show here on the Arise News channel. Still have with me in the studio Professor Bola Akintenwa, Director General of the Polytech Center for International Diplomacy and Strategic Studies, former Director General of the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, Yemi Adamolekun, Executive Director in Office North, and Chike Ogea, former Commissioner for Information, Delta State. Well, let's move on to our next topic. In a surprise move last week, the Nigeria police filed a suit at the Federal High Court in Abuja, seeking to stop the judicial panels of inquiry set up by some state governments to probe allegations of police brutality and human rights abuses. The judicial panels were set up on the directive of the National Economic Council, headed by Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo, following the nationwide protests in October against police brutality. The panels have since begun work with a mandate to deliver justice for victims of the now dissolved Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS, and other police units. The police, in their suit, sought to stop the panels on the grounds that the action of state governments was unconstitutional and illegal. It maintained that the state governments lack the power to constitute panels to investigate activities of the police force and their officials. The police asked the court to restrain the 36 states of the Federation and their various panels of inquiry from going ahead with the probe. But barely 48 hours after the lawsuit came to light, the Inspector General of Police, Mohammad Adamu, ordered the withdrawal of the suit. He also ordered an immediate investigation into the origin of the suit and the suspension of the head of the legal unit of the police force. The mixed messaging from the police coincided with a threat by the Nigerian government to treat future protests as treason. The strong-arm tactics all point to a consistent pattern of clampdowns against dissenters in the country. Well, I guess that introduction is explanatory enough, but Chike, I would like to start with you. A number of issues there. The police going to court without the knowledge of the Inspector General of Police. The Inspector General of Police now has withdrawn the suit. The threat from the police that protests will be treated as treason, and also the validity, the constitutionality or otherwise of the judicial panels of inquiry. What's your take on this?
Well, my take is simple. You know, many times in this set, I've always made a statement. I said this government always subverts itself. And this is yet another example. I'm sure by next week we will get something else, you know, because I don't understand why there is zero coordination in this government. And the way it is going on, it will get to a stage where they will reduce governance into something laughable, so to speak. Because, you know, the law is clear on it. I think this issue of panel and all of that, I think it's even on the concurrent list. And we were all here when the vice president said, and in fact, the president also did allude, and I think he made that categorical statement when he asked the states to please set up their various panels so that we can look into these atrocities that have been committed over time by the SARS situation. Now, we wake up one morning and somebody has gone to court. But you know, what irks my mind even more than all of this is that aside the impunity that this goes on with all the time, nobody is ever held accountable. Do you know, in a more civilized climb, I would say, or maybe in a place where rule of law and the tenets of democracy are better understood and obeyed, obviously, even the head of the police would have to leave his office for this kind of thing. Because obviously that instruction, even if he did not give the instruction, the fact that he does not know about it shows that he is not competent to hold that position. That is the truth. And even, I assume the police will have a legal department. They must have somebody who is in charge of legal, everything legal there. That person has to resign. Somebody has to take the flag and somebody has to take responsibility for this. And you see, as long as we keep doing things in Nigeria where, people are never accountable for their actions, nothing happens, this is what we get. I keep going back to this Dele Farotimi guy all the time because that guy seems to be one person that speaks a lot of sense in this country right now. I remember I think again, it was on channels I watched him when he actually said something. He said, I double dare the authorities to let that panel sit. He actually predicted what is happening. That's why I'm not surprised. From the beginning, he says that panel is not going to be allowed to sit. That because they know that they cannot handle what is going to come out of that panel. And when this thing came out during the week and I saw that, I was like, oh my God, how can we still be doing this in this day and age? Well, thank God, the Inspector General has said he doesn't know anything about it. I mean, there must be an internal inquiry in the police to find out where that kind of thing will have come up from. But I believe that already now, people are already very skeptical about whatever results are going to come out of all of this. You don't empanel those kind of people, the retired judges all over the states, legal practitioners, very distinguished, some of them are sons and all of that. You don't empanel them and put them out there to waste their time, maybe because you're already typical of how we behave here, walking to an answer. Even with walking to an answer, you are not even satisfied with that. You now go ahead to want to cut short the life of the panel even before it takes off. I don't understand how we do things here. And, we really have to start doing things better, if you ask me. This is very, very undemocratic, so to speak.
Well, the Inspector General of Police has ordered that the case be withdrawn from court. He has also ordered that the head of the police legal team be investigated. And he has promised that if he is found guilty of dereliction of duty, he will be sanctioned appropriately. But Yemi, one issue, Yemi, are you with me? One issue that was raised in that, suit that was filed, the case that was filed, is that, look, the police do not report to state governments. And the lawyer who filed the case, O.M. Atoyebi Esquire, was quoting section 214 subsections 1 and 2 of the Constitution, which says simply that there's only one police force, and that police force has an Inspector General of Police, and that he reports to the President and the Commander-in-Chief. So are we also dealing with an issue here for the purpose of discussion about federalism?
Not at all, I believe. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but I have sort of followed the proceedings a little bit. And Mr. Femi Falana SAN did write an article as far back as November 9th, sort of breaking down what the law says and why he believes that the judicial panels are well constituted. I mean, it would be a crying shame for a vice president to be a professor of law, a senior advocate of Nigeria, and the person who chaired the meeting where the governors agreed to this. And then we're having legal issues about the constitutionality or lack thereof of these judicial panels. So I do stand on both what the vice president has done in principle and what Mr. Falana has broken down, that this issue of judicial panels is neither on the exclusive nor the concurrent list. It's actually under the tribunal inquiry law. And there's thank you. And there's at least a Supreme Court case, Fawemi and versus IBB, that states very clearly that because it's not on the exclusive nor concurrent list, that it's a residual issue for states. So states do have the power to constitute those panels, number one. And because the crimes are criminal, or there's another word, and both of them, states also have the power to adjudicate on, that they can set up the panels. And look, it's not a court. All they're asking the police to come and do is defend themselves. So someone has come to a panel and said, you threw me off a 2-story building and broke my leg. I am sitting in a wheelchair. What was my offense? Or someone comes and says, you killed my son, you killed my daughter, or you shot me, whatever the case might be. Or you took me to an ATM and extorted $500,000 from me. And that's my own evidence. These are the things I have. I mean, we're tracking with a partner organization, IAGA Africa. We have observers in all 29 states that have panels constituted. And we have observers sitting in this hearings, and the kind of reports they're bringing back that people have gunshot wounds, people have reports, death certificates, people have injuries like the gentleman in the wheelchair that they can show of effect of police brutality on them. So that's what they're bringing as evidence. So all we're asking is for the police to come and defend themselves. What's actually quite fascinating, even with this case, is that a lot of people are actually showing up at the tribunals because they've taken the police to court. Judgment has been found against the police, but there's some bureaucracy in our laws that requires the Attorney General of the Federation to sign off on the police paying compensation. So they're coming to the tribunals with these cases. Unfortunately, because a court has already given judgment, the tribunals cannot do anything. So you have the police not responding to those things, but they're flip-flopping under. I mean, you raise this issue, and I dare say that I find it very interesting. I mean, kudos to the IG of police. We don't agree on a lot of things, but I definitely give him kudos in his quick response to what had transpired. But I dare say that I do not trust the police force enough, and I say that someone in a legal office will just suddenly wake up and say, you know what, I think I'm going to go to court. Not only am I going to court, I'm going to brief a sitting senior advocate of Nigeria of what we want to do, and we will go to court, and the IG of police nor his office would be aware. I just find that very, very, very hard to swallow.
Yeah, but quickly, if you can manage it in 1 second, the threat that protests would henceforth be treated as treason.
It's unconstitutional. And also there's a statement that I just read shortly before I came on air that Lagos State is saying that the rumors they're hearing about protests will be resisted with everything. But they said lawful protest, unlawful protest. What is an unlawful protest? What is a lawful protest? So I think the fact that the police is even defining protest as lawful and unlawful, and as you said, threatening to treat it as treason, the same way they're treating people who transferred money to help people who are protesting medical and saying that they were funding they are terrorists, tells you the mindset of this government when it comes to citizens' constitutional right to protest against a government that is not.
Prof, let me come to you. The police are going to court, and the Inspector General of Police is unaware. Even the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation does not know about it. In fact, the Attorney General of the Federation was joined in this suit. What does this say about how our institutions function?
I think Chinua Achebe has responded to all these questions we are trying to address here. He explained them differently with at least 4 titles of his novels. When he was talking about there was a country, we should not be talking about was. There is a country, and that's Nigeria. The second title is Arrow of God. There is a country where the arrow of God is imminent. All right? Arrow of God, as a result of this non-coordination in political governance, it's not just IGP that we are talking about. Just last week, we have a case of a public official who said people will be paying X amount of money. And then there's a counter directive immediately. The minister now saying, no, it's going to be free. They're talking about conversion of these gasoline vehicles into
autogas.
Autogas.
We're talking about autogas.
So this time, you have one person saying, well, you are going to pay as much as 250,000. And the following day, a counter directive. So the person who announced that couldn't have, come out to announce that. It's the same thing. Now, apart from there is a country in which the arrow of God is very imminent. The third one is things fall apart. In Nigeria, a country, arrow of God, imminent, potential to strike, things shall fall apart. And the last title there that is relevant, that will be no longer at ease. Now, like Yemi rightly pointed out, and supported actively by Shike as well. You have a government where you don't have any coordination. Somebody talks about A in the morning. You are going to counteract that one in the afternoon with B. A government whose spokesperson will not even know the mind of his principal, and you are speaking. Now, I quite belong to the school of thought of Yemi, who says he doesn't believe in the police. How can the IGP come out and tell us that they don't know the military, the paramilitary? They always have spokesperson. They don't just talk. And they don't speak on their own. They always write in black and white. Please, I think we are looking for trouble. And we need to stop this. Terrorism, what does that mean? It's not a question of whether it is constitutional or not constitutional. Protest in Nigeria on the basis of the 1999 Constitution as amended is clear on that. So what are you talking about, lawful protest and unlawful protest? You have the right to protest. How you carry it about can now bring about illegality.
Oh, yes.
So we should not confuse the two.
Within the purview of Section 35, Section 39, and Section 40 of the 1999 Constitution. Let's take the next topic. Following the rising spate of insecurity in Nigeria, the House of Representatives on Tuesday passed a resolution inviting President Muhammadu Buhari to brief it on the security situation in the country. The House's resolution was the fallout of a motion moved by lawmakers from Borno State over the recent massacre of farmers in the state by Boko Haram insurgents. Conveying the House's resolution, Speaker Femi Gbajabiamila met with the president at the State House the next day and extracted a commitment from him to honor the invitation this week. But this did not stop.
What we basically sought was to convey the resolution of the House and to fix a date, which we did not fix, out of respect for Mr. President and his very, very tight schedule. What date will be convenient, and we have agreed on a date, and he will meet with the House to address the situation. I think he's more concerned than me or you. That's all I can say. Than me or you. You know, they say on easy lies the head that wears the crown. And we'll leave everything until when he comes to the House. Let me not preempt him. But all I can tell you right now, and the DS is here, the leader is here to bear me witness, he's committed, fully committed to the security of the welfare, lives and property of Nigerians.
Well, Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila there. But this is not stopped the Northern Elders Forum, a social cultural group in northern Nigeria, from calling for President Buhari's resignation over what the group termed as the president's failure to listen to concerns expressed by many Nigerians about rising insecurity. The forum expressed dismay that life had lost its value under the present administration due to the absence of political will to fight the Boko Haram insurgency and other threats such as banditry, rustling, and kidnapping. Well, Prof, let me start with you. The president, we're told, has agreed to appear before the House of Reps this Thursday. You had the Speaker of the House of Reps there. What do you make of that? And secondly, the Northern Elders Forum insisting that, in fact, it's not enough for the president to give account. He must resign.
President Muhammadu Buhari, consistent with his own integrity, principle, belief, I will subscribe with the school of thought that says he should resign. Why? When the issue of fighting the Boko Haramis, when the issue of insecurity was raised, this same PMB, Muhammadu Buhari, was the first to suggest that Goodluck Jonathan should resign. If he could not do it, if he could not deal decisively with Boko Haram insurgency. He was talking about lack of governance, not even good governance. He said he should resign. So if he's now on the seat now to go back to Dele Mohammadu, who said a woman must try two husbands to know the experience. Now, this
Prof,
time...
you keep repeating this.
Yeah, because...
Our international viewers may consider it sexist.
No, well...
So let's just stay with this subject.
No, it's still the same thing. It's relevant.
Leave a woman trying her husbands.
Yeah, but you see, Muhammadu Buhari, as military head of state, should be differentiated from Muhammadu Buhari as president, because this time he's elected. He knows the fundamental differences. So by the time he was yet to be elected as president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, he was asking Goodluck Jonathan to leave. And we strongly believed in him. We thought that he's a militarian, that as a former military man all along, he will be able to deal decisively with all the security issues. Now, when you ask him to resign, at the end of the day, well, you won election. You are now there. The same people who had the Buhari blood in their veins, in their capillaries, are now telling you, look, you are in the same situation with Goodluck Jonathan. You couldn't do this. You should resign. And this statement is more important. The mere fact that it's even coming from our compatriots in the north, which means that our compatriots in the north are very nationalistic, they're very patriotic. They're not looking at it and say, this is our own.
For record purposes, Prof, the last time the Northern Elders Forum criticized President Buhari, Femi Adesina dismissed them as a group of irritants that should not be listened to. But let me come to you, Chike Ogea. The president has agreed to appear before the House of Reps. What are the issues he should be focusing on with regard to the security crisis that Nigeria faces?
Wow. You know, with security, it's a very dicey situation. It is very important that he goes, and I am thankful that the National Assembly, and in particular the House of Representatives, have managed to extract that commitment from him. But now, the second part of it is that, is it going to be an executive session, or is it going to be an open session where there are going to be cameras to air this to all Nigerians? And to that extent, you know, it has its merits and demerits, because we are talking about very sensitive security situation, you know, especially in the northeastern Borno state, where we saw this kind of horrendous killings that has never ever happened in Nigeria before. They slit people's throats and they cut people's heads off. I mean, that's like taking us back to medieval times as far as I'm concerned, the days of the early man and all of that. And like Prof alluded, you know, we're all, one of the reasons why I personally didn't mind Muhammadu Buhari coming in was because, you know, of his military background. And we actually saw our country, you know, drifting. And we thought that he will come and arrest this situation. And if this man, for some reason or the other, was prevented from being the president, Nigeria would never, in fact, Nigeria would not even, there would be no Nigeria, because we would believe that, even those of us in the South, that if this man had come in, he would have been able to fix this situation. But just see where we are now. We are even worse than we ever were. And, you know, so to that extent, I'm beginning to, I don't know what I'm expecting from him, even with this engagement on Thursday. Are we going to be able to see? Is he going to tell us the reasons why he's still keeping those same service chiefs? Like I said, the service chiefs to me are not even the problem per se. But now there's this angle that people are saying that the fact that they have overstayed their welcome, that people below them are not motivated anymore, because it's not giving the position for people to grow into their own, and for people that should take over leadership to do so. So you have a situation where maybe the sabotage is even coming from within the ranks of the military. In fact, to an extent, I think so, because the audacity with which these guys are proceeding now is such that, I mean, the governor of Borno State, even with all the security he has, I'm sure must be the most endangered species in Nigeria right now. And how long is this going to go on for? So please, you know, the president should come. He should come and tell us exactly what the situation is. And like I said, even if They don't, have to do it publicly or whatever. Somehow or the other, maybe after he has briefed our representatives, because don't forget, those people that he's going to talk to are due representatives, and then they can get back to us and say these and these and these are the issues. But one thing is definite: we cannot continue like this.
Okay,
we certainly cannot continue like this.
Yeah, point well made. But Prof, you wanted to add a footnote. If you could do that briefly, so that I can go to Yemi.
Chike is talking about the secrecy of the discussion. Will it be executive or open all along? I think the problem is not about secrecy. Nobody is expecting the president to come and tell us all the private the techniques of national self-defense. What we are talking about now is, look, we have 2 or 3 dynamics of insecurity. The Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi said it once that there will never be peace in this country until Nigeria is divided into Muslim North and Christian South. Now, the second one is that Rawlings...
The Constitution of Nigeria says Nigeria is an indivisible, indissoluble entity.
Well,
that's what our Constitution says.
That is according to our Constitution. The empiricists, people who are stakeholders, who are inside, they are now telling us. So you need to reconcile that statement with the constitutional provision. Rawlings, before he died, said, look, Nigeria's problem can only be addressed if, for instance, the colonial legacies, the colonial leaders that are still left are removed. Now, another approach to it, we were told that we have Boko Haram agents in government. Is there? Now, recently, just about 10 days ago, we have a coalition, international coalition against Boko Haram. And now, the way they are killing is so barbaric, so inhuman. And now you are now asking Mr. President to come and speak to National Assembly. We need to hear in order to have trust. Public trust is necessary this time.
Yes, we need to rebuild confidence in government's ability to keep all of us safe. Yemi, your take on this?
Thank you. A couple of things. Your point about the Constitution, quite valid, but it's not a Constitution that Nigerians wrote. It's a Constitution that the military wrote and handed over. And I think that's part of the current conversation around the discordance between what is on paper and, as Prof called it, the empiricist. And the empiricist is not even analysts or special people. The empiricists are Nigerians. The reality of a Nigerian's life is not what is in the Constitution. So it's something that should be revisited and really must be revisited as we talk about this restructuring. President Muhammadu Buhari is commander-in-chief. So the buck stops at his table. So as Chike said, it's really not about the service chiefs anymore. It's about the person that enables them to remain in office. And nobody, as he said, nobody has been fired. Rather, he keeps saying they are doing their best. So if you are doing nothing, so on a scale of 0 to 10, you have an employee who on anybody's scale of performance or on review scores a 2 out of 10, or maybe even a 1 out of 10. And at every review, you tell him you're doing very well. You're actually doing your best. I see that you're doing your best. If I'm getting 1 over 10, what's the incentive to do any better? And that, for me, is what I believe that the president is inadvertently communicating to the service chiefs. Yes, we'll see a headline. He's giving them marching orders. They must do this. They must do that. But they do nothing and they still stay there. Look, as part of the Bring Back Our Girls movement, one of the things we consistently said is that it is not our job to know the inner workings of government security briefings or the most effective way to deal with issues. Are you negotiating for the girls, or are you swooping in at night and collecting them from Boko Haram? That's not my business. I'm not in the army. I'm not a specialist. My job as a citizen is to hold you, my duty bearer, accountable. So for me, it's not the details, as Prof said, that we're interested in. We're interested in results. And over the last 6 years, there have been no results, and the government is not doing anything about it. Is the meeting going to be public or is it going to be private? Quite frankly, I don't care. If anything can be said from President Buhari's conversation with Nigerians 2 days after the last Lekki massacre, I have zero expectations that he will tell me anything that will inspire hope or inspire me to think that, oh, my president is on the ball and is in charge of this thing. So, and I think lastly, to Prof's point, when he was campaigning for office, President Muhammadu Buhari was asking former President Jonathan to resign because obviously he couldn't manage the security situation. So now he's in the same boat. People are asking him to resign. So I think it's a very fair request. But let's take it a step further. The Constitution, since we like to refer to it, and it's the grand norm, as they call it, that we have, says that the president can be impeached for non-performance. Yes, they will quote this and say, yes, we've been saying it is regime change. No, it's not a regime change. It's a democracy. And if you're not performing or you're too tired and you're not interested, there is that exit option. If you don't want to resign, you can be impeached. But unfortunately, National Assembly is dominated by APC, so I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I don't see that happening either. Well, let's move on to the next topic. The Nigerian Senate has expressed concern that President Muhammadu Buhari's government is yet to make plans for the purchase of COVID-19 vaccines, despite a rush by several countries to place orders for their citizens and commence the immunization process.
Has not produced a plan for the procurement, distribution, and administration of the vaccines to Nigerians. And the Senate is concerned that the only plan on COVID-19 vaccine for Nigeria is the pledge by the Global Alliance for Vaccine Initiative, known as Gavi, an international partner on vaccine, to support 20% of the country's vaccine requirement. This support will cover only the cost of the vaccines without taking care of the logistics requirement for distribution and administration.
In the conventional sense, what is used is an attenuated form of the bacteria of the virus.
This came on the heels of the announcement by the United Kingdom to commence the administration of COVID-19 vaccinations this week. Two major pharmaceutical firms, Pfizer and BioNTech, won permission for emergency use of their vaccine in Britain. It is considered the world's first coronavirus shot that's backed by rigorous science. It makes the United Kingdom one of the first countries to begin vaccinating its population as it tries to curb Europe's deadliest COVID-19 outbreak. Reacting to the vaccine rollout overseas, Nigerian lawmakers asked the federal government to, within 2 weeks, provide them with a detailed plan, including approval and funding mechanisms on when it plans to procure a vaccine for Nigerians. Chike, I know you are very concerned about this COVID-19 and how we've been managing the various protocols and the efforts of the various government agencies. What's your reaction to this concern expressed by the Nigerian Senate?
Well, I think it's valid. It's a valid concern because we can see that the situation is real. It's not abating. Nigerians are still dying from COVID-19. So even if we are getting to the turn of the year and we have it somewhere in our psyche that come 2021, once it's January 1, 2021, COVID has gone, you know, it's not going to work that way. And obviously, we've tried what we can here. I assume most of our own herbalists, our own pharmacists, you know, both the homegrown ones and whatever we can come up with. And I don't think we've come up with much. In the matter of the handling of the process, that I can commend the Presidential Task Force on. I think they have done a decent job on that. The DG of the NCDC, you know, the Chikwe, and all of that. But the truth is that we have to go a step further to protect our people, and we definitely need this vaccine. We have seen that in America, in the UK, I think they've even started trials from this week or something. So now the problem we have is, okay, we want to get the vaccines, even if we have to get it from outside. Of course, there has to be, government has to apportion the money, do an appropriation for that and all of that. But how do we store these vaccines, especially those that say they have to be stored in such low, you know, temperatures and all of that? And you know, in Africa, we have very high temperatures here. Then we have issues with our infrastructure. So even when you want to put them in freezers and all of that, What happens when we have interruptions with electricity supply and all of that? So those are the kind of things, we should be looking at, maybe thinking about what kind of storage kind of things we should come up with for these vaccines. But the truth is that we need them like yesterday, because our people are still dying from COVID-19. That is the truth.
Yes, well, I mean, the Senate is also saying that if Nigeria does not move fast enough, many countries could impose travel ban on Nigerians if we get left behind. And that the 20% that we're expecting from the Gavi Alliance is not enough. Professor Yewale Tomori, in fact, says the country will need up to about 80% of the population to be vaccinated for us to begin to say we're in a good place. But of course, part of the problem is the skepticism of Nigerians. Prof.
I have a problem with this issue of vaccines. I want to know, is the vaccine going to cure or heal? What we have been told, especially from the perspective of the politics or politicization of it, we've been told that vaccination itself may not be a permanent solution to it. That look, the moment one is infected, the virus is in the system, and that the vaccination is only to mitigate the impact in such a way that, on a permanent basis, at least, vaccination can keep you alive. The point I'm trying to draw attention to is simply that, internationally speaking, some people have been saying, be careful, don't take this vaccine. Now, I would say that rather than being in a hurry, probably we should make haste slowly. The mere fact that anybody can place a visa ban on Nigerians, this is international politics. Look, when you look at the nature of international politics, when I remember United States policy on Angola, a policy that simultaneously was supporting Jonas Savimbi politically, and the authority in Luanda economically. I now ask myself, where is the United States in this particular case? So in this case, the moment the U.S. sends signal to Jonas Savimbi to say no bomb should be dropped in Cabinda, where you have Gov, please. This is just international politics of vaccine. Well, it doesn't mean anything.
Well, what the president of the Nigerian Medical Association says, that's Professor Innocent Uja, is that, look, even if we procure these vaccines, they will also still have to be put through clinical trial here in Nigeria before anybody can administer those vaccines on Nigerians. And then, of course, Interpol has warned about certain rogue elements who are likely to start distributing fake vaccines. And I think that that's something that Nigeria has to worry about before some unscrupulous elements begin to sell fake vaccines in Nigeria. But Yemi, your input on this?
Two things for me. I definitely agree with you about fake vaccines and people just, access easy and wanting to say they've done it. But I think where we have an advantage that we're not leveraging is the fact that we've reacted pretty well, as with other countries on the continent, maybe say South Africa, to the virus relative to the West, the US and Europe. And we're not leveraging that. I think antibody testing is something that we should really be doing just to see how many people truly have had it and didn't know, since we are saying most of our own cases have been asymptomatic, and how that can be leveraged. I'm in no hurry to take any vaccine that was rushly produced. And if some countries say I can't come because of that, it's all good. Yeah. And sorry, lastly, I also wanted to say that the framing around procurement, I mean, National Assembly and their penchant for procurement and spending money is known. So when we can actually do a lot more to prevent people getting it, we're not mask compliant for the most part. In most parts of the country, people don't think there's a disease. So we now want to sort of devolve energy into spending money on a vaccine where our health infrastructure is not getting the attention it needs. So people stop dying of things like malaria, really, which is killing more people than COVID-19 is.
Okay, thank you, Yemi. But I noticed you were quoting Dr. Anthony Fauci there when you talk about rushing the vaccine, and he has backtracked on that. And the British, they've said they didn't rush anything; they followed due protocol. But in any case, thank you for your insight. You've been watching Thisday Live, the Sunday talk show here on Arise News. I'm Ruben Abati. From my entire team here in Lagos, it's bye for now, and thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next Sunday.